What's going on, everyone? So, here we have obviously Sweet Baby Inc. affiliates and people that are a part of all that garbage you see at Kotaku and some at IGN, unfortunately, too, have lowered the score of Black Myth Wukong. It should be at around an 84 meta. I'm telling you, because I've seen some other reviews too say the same thing. It's not a lot, but the point is that this should not be allowed in the gaming industry. When I think of a critic position, I think of a masculine Caucasian in this industry. Like it just literally fits their narrative and it fits their role. And it's somebody who wants to do something because that's their job and they're professional at it. And you're not to be biased. You are to be completely honest. And when I say that, I'm talking about in the Metacritic industry because that's where that comes. We got Japanese critics too, but they're not very big on that compared to Western society, like how big it is over here. They operate a little bit differently. You know what I mean? So when we talk about this industry, what it was founded off and how it works, it literally just goes back to that. Now you have these weird people that are in this position that should not be a critic because they're not qualified to be a critic. And I went over this before when we talk about DEI invasion, woke invasion, people with mental disorders trying to get in professional positions that are not qualified to be in there. And this right here that we're about to go into is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Taking points off of a game because it lacks inclusivity and diversity. What the hell does that have to do with professional criticism and development of how good a game is? This is what I mean. Guys, I'm very serious about this. Um, that is a retarded, mentally ill person. It really needs to be seen that way because that's the reality of it. This is not an opinion. No, this is a fact. They are mentally retarded. They should not be in a professional critic position to affect the sales of a game that people worked and put their life into. That's when they first came into the industry. And they have the right to actually hurt it and make it seem like it's reality when really it's just a mental disorder coming in with this type of behavior affecting the cells, when it's just not real. It should not be allowed. The fact that it is allowed shows how mentally ill the industry is and corrupt these people are in this position. So let's go ahead and dive into this and let's see what Vara has to say. I've read this and I've read other ones, but I just wanted to react to this.
The mainstream media has been spewing complete and utter lies about Black Myth Wukong and game science for years at this point, but now that the
Hmm.
release is right around the corner, we finally have the review scores, but the outlets are actually tanking their review scores due to the quote lack of inclusivity.
Yeah, there's a few that are doing that. But yeah, when you think of somebody like reviewing a game, at least gaming critics used to have some sense of honesty to them. Now with all this coming in, it's a little bit shady, and I don't blame people for having doubts. But if you know what I'm saying, if you have a mind of your own in that sense, you will decide if you want something or not. I used to like game reviews because it's just nice seeing from other people's point of view. You tell me what's in the game, if there's some bugs, if it's unoptimized. You know what I mean? You give me a general consensus on things. And if I love a franchise or I love a new IP that I want to succeed, the Metacritic and the reviews affect the game sales. If I want something to be supported more, seeing positive reviews is going to help because it generates more positive feed. So I don't need it to decide whether I want to get something or not, but it does tell me things like, are you no man skying me? Are you lying to me and telling me you're doing all this and that? And the reviews show me that it's not that you're deceiving me. So that's what reviews are useful for and good for information. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily need your 0 through 100 metric score, which is based off of the way some education systems work. You see, it's a 0 through 100, and that's what your wholeness is based off of. There's a lot more to life than that, but the point is that it's just not needed in that regard for me. But it does affect things in a general aspect in Western society. We have to agree. In Japan, not so much, but in Western society, it does, and it's a lot bigger. So it does matter. We have to be honest about that.
and diversity in the game. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I say this all the time, I do not trust critics, whether it's with video games, movies, TV shows, books, it does not matter. I will always consume the content myself because half the time these people are paid off, and the other half of the
Yeah.
time they're simply attacking products because they don't agree with the creatives behind them, or they're mad that a certain narrative or message is not pushed into the product. And that is exactly what is happening right now with Black Myth Wukong. This is a game so many people are excited for. It's the #1 wishlisted game on Steam.
It's a
It
real
seems
video
for
game.
a reason because it looks fantastic, but they are, of course, tanking the scores. And part of it is because they're saying, well, there are some performance issues, but a major part of at least Screen Rant's review is the fact that it does not feature enough inclusivity and diversity. So, heading on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, that person has a mental disorder. Even you taking the money and still doing that, and just the fact that it is allowed, because you have to understand this is not something that should exist organically in gaming. And this is their first game in the industry where you see China actually trying to represent gaming in an authentic manner. It's not a gotcha game. This is an actual real video game that's developed to where everything you do, you earn everything out of it. It's not trying to advertise to you. It's not trying to make you a gambling addict. It's a real video game, and it's their mythology hero. You know, it's the best thing to represent them in a positive manner. And you got these people coming in here because they can't stick their poison in it. They go on this and do this. It says a lot about their mindset. We just have to see the mental disorder mindset and the mental disorder reaction when you deny them and don't give them what they want, because it's not good for you. It's just poison. Happens a lot all around this world today, and so many different categories in life. These people are like viruses. The best thing to do is expose them and put them in their place and get them out.
On over to this complete and utter joke of a review. It says Black Myth Wukong, the Souls-like action hype train, is a little off rails. And here are their quick links: a cinematic masterpiece with poor performance. Now, this is something, of course, I worry about with every single game is poor performance, if something is going to run like trash. And
That's true, because there's always deadlines in the industry, and you got to meet the deadlines for the stock market, for all that. You just have a deadline. You have a roadmap. You got to meet it. So a lot of games today, they feel like it's not like back then. You could eventually patch it in. Though I'd prefer the product to be finished.
they're saying that it does have some bugs and glitches, but they did not have any that completely broke the game, nothing that, hindered their continuation of the gameplay. But then they go on to say that the combat is engaging and addictive, that it, has a lot of choices and boss encounters are extremely thrilling. But then they get into some of the issues they have, like it does not make use of its environment and environmental choices don't work out. And these all seem like very normal things that they would put in a review. Absolutely no problem, right? Not everybody is going to love every single game, which I totally and completely understand. But then we get into its own category of largely lacks inclusion and representation in the monkey game, guys. They are complaining about representation in a game where you're Monkey Man. I mean, come on. The jokes write themselves here. Out of everything you could complain about,
Yeah, they're dumb
this
enough to
is
do
what
that.
you chose to have a massive portion of your review on.
It shows how much they want to make that statement. Literally, let's read that very careful. Largely lacks. Their mind thinks it largely lacks that. Their virus, it largely lacks being infected, like a zombie infection, because that's the way I'm perceiving it. They're mentally ill. So that means that before they reviewed this game, they had that in mind already. This should just tell you where this links back to and who's behind this article and who needs to be fired out of their position for making that statement. If we had a real healthy video game industry where you had people that were not corrupt leading, that person would have been fired that day if that was me. You see what I'm saying? That should be happening. Just think about that largely. That's a sick mindset.
It says, while my analysis and review of Wukong remains focused on gameplay, well, clearly it doesn't because you're focusing on the lack of diversity and inclusivity. It's important to mention the controversy surrounding the game studio and the reports of misogyny and sexism from developers. I think it's extremely important to point out the fact that IGN had mistranslated those quotes and they never issued a legitimate apology or
They're
correction.
not
They
sorry.
doubled down about a month and a half ago and said, well, this is what we found out. They're pieces of crap at this company, which was not the response people were expecting. And instead of trying to, say, hey, listen, these are just accusations, and that doesn't mean that they're complete evidence, they're deciding to play into it, saying they're misogynists and sexists. But then it goes on to say, playing as a female gamer allowed me to notice issues surrounding inclusion and representation. As far as chapters 1 and 2, while characters are clearly fictitious and fantastical creatures, there were no female or feminine NPCs, enemies, or bosses present. The only exception, if you can call it female, is a boss named Mother of Stones in Chapter 2, which is nothing more than a still glowing rock with no ability. So, right off the bat, this to me screams that they only played Chapter 1 and 2, that they didn't play anymore, because why would you only reference those two chapters if you played more than that? As
And
a
why are you
reviewer,
looking
you
for
are
that?
given a code of the game. You can play it in its entirety, and this screams to me that they half-assed it. But they go on to use their gender, which to me is so ridiculous. As a female gamer, just like the Screen Rant journal, I have never said to myself, this is so icky because there's not women. I love women in my games, whether they're sexy,
It's because
whether
you don't
they're
have a mental
strong,
disorder.
whether they are a damsel in distress. It does not matter. I love seeing women in games, but it's not some like sexist conspiracy if they're not in every scene at all times. Also, my gender isn't part of the, enjoying games equation. I can still enjoy games if they only have one woman in it, if they have several women in it. It does not.
It doesn't matter. It's about how good the game is and understanding the history behind Black Myth Wukong and what it's about. Instead of you trying to inject something into it that doesn't belong because you're mentally deranged and retarded. It has nothing to do with the soul and the foundation. It has literally nothing to do with it on any scale imaginable possible. That's what I mean.
Matter to me because I'm not specifically looking for women. We know that a lot of developers in the industry have DEI checklists, and it says,
It's
oh,
just Asian hate.
40% of females, a certain percentage of
It's what it
people of
is.
color. And it just seems that this reviewer mentally took notes saying, oh, well, there
Yeah,
wasn't enough
mentally ill.
women in these two chapters. And when you combine that with the
Oh man, I need to
accusations
get
levied
out.
towards the developers, I mean, it of course comes across as they were desperate to find an angle in which to attack this game, which is just absolutely freaking pathetic. I'm not surprised at all that activist journos are knocking their Black Myth Wukong review scores down over the accusations
Yeah,
IGN
activists.
created and the quote lack of inclusion and representation, because when they pick a target, they will do anything to bury it. Hogwarts Legacy, Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, and I'm sure that this is not going to be the last game in which this happens. Now, if you actually go to Metacritic and you look at the general scores for this game, they're pretty solid. And I'm shocked that IGN actually rated it positively. The US IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, where the Chinese IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and they mentioned nothing about the controversies in which they started, which I thought was definitely.
I think that's fair because they have the mindset of knowing we need that balance because we know what's going to happen over here, and they were right. You know what I mean? And it deserves to happen because like I said, you got people with these polarized, biased mindsets that no matter what, they're looking for a reason to put that dishonest score. And the fact that Metacritic allows it and the gaming industry allows it, instead of being professional like it used to be, it's just very disappointing.
An interesting choice, but I don't think that Screen Rant is going to be the only outlet that attacks the game based on its quote
They weren't.
lack of representation. Now, funny enough, I did, of course, make a few posts about this on X, talking about this hilariously ridiculous article or review, if you can even call it that. And there are tons of people pointing and laughing at them. Any publication that rates media negatively due to the lack of diversity is a joke and not worth engaging with. Pre ordering the digital deluxe edition thanks to those BS reviews. If they hate it, I know I'll love it. We need good gameplay. We do not care about diversity and inclusivity. And I say this all the time, diversity and inclusivity are inherently good things, but the issue is the way that companies implement them into games and use them as a shield. Just because you have 40% women or 50% people of color.
I agree with you in that context if it was done in a healthy, organic, professional manner, where like you gave them something to do and you never interfered at all, and it just happened to come out that way because that naturally had came out from the inside outside, onto the screen. That's how creation works. Everything starts inside, you know, and you're not inside your creation while you're making it. A developer is outside of his screen. He's playing God, you know what I mean? And whatever is inside of him naturally flows outside and goes into that world. He puts his own little sun up there, his own little moon. You know what I mean? They're playing that, not somebody coming in saying, here, you know what I mean? Force this, put this in there. You know what I mean? That's not natural. You know? So if you gave me a game and it had all these women because you feel like you wanted to make that, if that's what naturally came out, I naturally accept that. But when you're forcing things coming in like a mafia invasion and doing all that garbage, that's where I start to have a problem. And that's where those labels look bad because the labels themselves are not doing anything. This is for all things in life, religion, science, anything you want to look into. If you have corrupt individuals underneath labels, they make those labels look bad. The labels themselves are not doing anything. It's the individuals. And diversity and inclusion. Like you could go over into the Japanese culture and you'll see that that's just there naturally and it's not corrupt. It's the same label, but guess what? It's not acting that way. You come over here and then now you see them trying to invade over there. So that's the thing. The labels are not doing anything. It's the individuals that are representing the label in a false manner.
Color does not mean we are not allowed to criticize the game, and that doesn't mean that the game is better. It means that congratulations, do you want a gold sticker to, have people recognize what you did? But at the same time, we still need good gameplay, good environments, good boss fights, design. All of these things
That's
are
creation.
very
Yes.
important. So, since we're still a few days away from the actual release, I will be keeping my eye on what the critics continue to say. Not that I really care, except for when I want to point and laugh at them for being absolute losers. And so far, Screen Rant is the only one
High
to
five.
mention the controversy in quotes that, IGN decided to perpetuate. And of course, mentioning the lack of inclusion and representation, but I'm sure that Screen Rant is not going to be the only outlet that mentions these things.
They're
But
not.
that's
Good job, Vara. I like you. You're cool. Um, I'm pretty sure we got some funny comments down here. Diversity and inclusion have become a poison chalice. It lacks diversity and inclusion. Guess it's a must buy then. I'm buying it just because it lacks diversity and inclusivity. Good job, devs, for not bending to those losers. Exactly. A game full of diverse animals, demons, and phantasmals doesn't have enough diversity in it. Woke media. Yeah, retard media. I personally hope this game wins Game of the Year. I think it's gonna go to Seven Rebirth. It's just that damn good. Crying about inclusivity in a game about a monkey, monk, pig, and a turtle is beyond ridiculous. We know what they mean by that. I guess everything to get out of here with that crap. All right, y'all. Like, subscribe. Y'all like this type of content. Gonna keep it up. Wanted to give y'all some good stuff here. I wanted to do it yesterday, but I got busy. So yeah, I'm doing it now. All right, get this out, y'all, and Let's keep attacking this. We got to every day. Every time it comes up, we got to get right to it and attack it. Take it out. You have a great day, good evening, night, wherever you're around the world. Peace out.